Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Umairah Binti Sapri, and I want to present about ocean iron fertilization. Firstly, we see about the history of iron fertilization. The definition of iron fertilization is it is the effective method for stimulating oceanic carbon sequestration through the biological pump in iron-limited, high nutrient, and low chlorophyll region. Second question is, how did they know about the atmospheric gas composition in ancient times? Firstly, the analysis of trapped air bubbles in Arctic Antarctic ice cores have revealed that atmospheric CO2 was around 180 ppm. During the last glacial maximum, LGM, which was 20,000 years ago. It's much lower than pre-industrial times, around 280 ppm. Next, we see how did Martin come to this finding. Martin proposed a hypothesis which is during the last critical maximum, increased dust inputs relieve iron limitation, where enhancing the biological pump in HNLC regions, particularly in the Southern Ocean. Martin found the high nutrient low chlorophyll, also known as HNLC, zone had high iron deficiency. The first region is North Pacific, Equatorial Pacific, and the last one is Antarctic Ocean. The next question is, what is the main objective of the ocean iron fertilization? This to investigate the biogeochemical response of ocean environments to natural iron and artificial iron addition. For part 2, we see the area of iron fertilization. The areas of iron fertilization in the world is, firstly is North Pacific, secondly is Equatorial Pacific, and thirdly is Southern Pacific. Why this area have been of interest by scientists and industries? The first one is, these areas known as high nutrient and low chlorophyll, where phytoplankton cannot completely utilize the available micronutrients, particularly nitrate due to the lack of the iron. Secondly, the primary production is low with the high availability of micronutrients. And now we see the importance of ocean iron fertilization. So what the relationship between high iron and reduced carbon in atmospheric? The high iron that was introduced to the ocean was aimed to reduce carbon in atmosphere. The iron as a stimulant to increase the phytoplankton growth. When more absorption of inorganic carbon, more settling of organic materials. It will reduce in the atmospheric carbon. For part 4, we see how many experiments of ocean iron fertilization. The total of experiment is 80, which is 6 is natural experiment, while 30 is artificial experiment. The duration that takes for this all experiment is 21 years, which is from 1993 until 2009. In HNLC, the Equatorial Pacific is 2 experiment. For subarctic North Pacific, which is 3 experiment, and the Southern Ocean is 7 experiment. And for the LNLC, in the North Atlantic, only 1 experiment. Next, we see the limitations. Firstly, at the Equatorial Pacific, it is insufficient experiment duration, subduction of fertilized patch, and the last one is micro and macronutrients limitation. Secondly, in the Southern Ocean, the firstly is light limitation, next is high dilution rates by small patch size, and the lastly is insufficient experimental duration. And the last area is subarctic mountains. The firstly is insufficient experimental duration, and the second one is single ion addition. For part 5, is this the experiment success or not? Firstly, not all of these experiments in OIF achieved the mains and considered as a success in removing carbon from atmosphere. The problems arise after the introduction of iron into the study areas. Firstly, in iron experiment 1, the problem is the lower biochemical response. Secondly, in South-Ocean iron response experiment is it showed no measurable change, and the last one in the subarctic North Pacific it showed no detection of carbon flux. We know that most of the OIF experiment is not successfully. So, how to improve for this feature? Firstly, experiments should be conducted in the center of the eddy structure where the grazing pressure is low while silicates level are high. Secondly, the shipboard observation are required during 40 days with multiple ion injection, and we need to choose the suitable location with lower possibilities of limitation, which is the experiment should conducted in area with sufficient nutrient and less obstacle. So, it's out from me about explanation of ocean ion fertilization. Thank you.